The other day, Zoe and I were doing press. We went on The View together and we showed up both wearing almost identical from like head to toe. I almost wore the same lip shade as her, black turtleneck, black thing, trousers, an identical belt. But because of the sort of structure of The View, there was no point at which I could reference the fact that we were wearing the same outfits. So we were sitting next to each other looking insane. I wanted to say, we know.
We called each other this morning and planned our outfits.
This was, we are aware, but there was no moment to do that, so we just looked crazy. Hi, mate.
How you doing, doll?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Last time I saw you was on set.
I know.
In London.
I know.
Very exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
And you'd finished this movie before then, though.
Yeah, we did this in 2021. Actually, on Maestro, which I just finished.
Yeah. How was that, by the way?
It was amazing.
It's exciting.
You worked with, who was I talking to? I was talking to Steve Morrow, the sound guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, I worked on Babylon. It's incredible.
It's mad.
And then I got to see it.
What do you think?
It's so crazy.
It's so insane.
I mean, it's wild. It's really, really wild.
When I read the script, I was like, this is La Dolce Vita and Wolf of Wall Street had a baby, and I love it.
Yeah.
But I was like, are we allowed to show that? Are we allowed to show that? I mean, there were so many scenes where I was like, A, I have no idea how I'm going to do that, and B, are we going to get away with
this? Did it read like, how close is the finished film to what it read like when you first read the script?
Pretty close.
It is.
You know, he's not like finding it in the edit.
Yeah.
He has like a vision. And
he's got it in his mind.
Yeah, and he's also, because he's so musically gifted, I think like even the rhythm of it felt evident on the page and then totally translated.
The music is so amazing.
The music is so good.
I got in the car, I watched it with my mum, and she was...
Oh God, what'd she think?
It's a fun one to see with your mum.
Yeah, everyone should see Babylon with their parents. It won't be awkward at all.
I sent my mum years ago with my now husband, but boyfriend of like probably 2 months to go and see Shame together.
No, God. Oh, God.
It was,
that's an icebreaker.
But no, she loved it. She really loved it. And she sat in the car and she immediately started just doing the little, the theme, the tune of you and Diego. And it's just so beautiful.
The music, I've heard it like 1 billion times because it's that it was one of those rare opportunities where we had the music before, while we would, to rehearse with.
Yeah.
We've heard those tunes 1,000 times over and I still love them. Like
they're
they're
so
still
lovely.
like, I know, it was really, really nice. Yeah, Justin Hurwitz has worked with Damien.
And he did La La Land.
Yeah, I think he's done all of Damien's things.
There's an amazing remix of the La La Land like main theme.
Yeah.
That has this, my children listen to it, and it has this little voice over the top going, that's just my baby dog. That's just, but it's over the like La La Land thing, and I can't wait to see what the Babylon remixes are.
People are so clever these days. Every time I see like memes or like any of those little mini internet sensations, I'm like,
genius. So the whole first thing, the whole first sequence, which is a giant party.
Yeah, oh my God.
With an elephant. First of all, was the elephant real? How much of the elephant was real?
Do you know,
don't ruin cinema for me.
The elephant wasn't real.
The elephant wasn't real at all?
I know, which is so convincing. There was actually so many animals on this set, so many animals every day. But funnily enough, I feel like there are more regulations around what you can do with animals than what you can do with humans. Because, our background artists, our extras, on the other hand, were the most uninhibited human beings you've ever
So who were they all? So just to...
It's amazing.
To explain, the whole opening sequence is this enormously debauched, crazy
party,
wild party, and there's lots of people wearing
a lot of nudity,
very little and nothing.
It's pretty much a party / orgy. Like it kind of turns into an orgy.
It's a porgy.
It's a porgy,
one might say.
Yeah, a drug-fueled porgy.
So who were all these background? Because they're all kind of incredible dancers, and was it a
lot of dancers, and a lot of, and also some friends, and also
who wanted to get their cash off and just
pretty much. Like friends of Davey and Olivia's. Like I asked some of my friends, we were just kind of like, because it was important to have the party atmosphere throughout the whole film. Yeah. I would always have friends like in the trailer, base camp was like a little ongoing party. Like I was like, I kind of need it for Nellie. Like I need her to never have a minute of quiet, never compose herself, just always be like, da, 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 next thing. So I didn't ever want to go back to my trailer and like settle. I wanted to and on weekends too, I was so tired. I was like, all right, I'm having a party, or like we're going out, or we're doing this, or having poker nights, or just like, I was like, I just want to stay extremely stimulated the whole time.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that like frequency that you end up living at, and you're like tired, but you still can't get off the adrenaline rush. And I wanted kind of Nelly to have that all the time. So it was like 2 weeks of that energy.
2 weeks. Yeah, I thought, because it's like, how long is that? It's like 40, it's a long, that whole party is a
pretty
long
long
old
sequence,
thing.
and there's like a lot of intricate camera moves and stuff like that. And obviously the exterior to the party we shot at a different time, and the interior was at the Ace Theatre in LA. I can't remember how many days, but I think the party all up was around 2 weeks, which it was so weird because you know how like sometimes it like actually feels like what you're doing is, you know, like it feels real. It's like I felt like I was at a party, but it was like a party that just never ended.
No.
But you were kind of in it. We'd walk out, and there'd be like broad daylight, and I was like, oh, it's like when the lights come on at a club, and you're like, oh God. What?
Did you shoot it at night?
It was kind of like morphed into nights by the end. But no, we'll start, you know, sometimes we'd start the party at, 6 in the morning, and it would be like, all right, everyone close off, act crazy, like just like.
And did he play music, or were you just doing it?
Oh, no, there was.
So you didn't have to do the kind of like.
We had to do a little bit of that sometimes, but honestly not that much, which
that's good.
is always the worst.
Yeah, it's always.
Oh God,
when there's dead silence and you're having to sort of create.
Yeah, because actually in that party there isn't so much talking as much as like singing and choreography and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there's the chicken that's stealing someone's bag of Coke. There's like, my friend Phoebe actually plays the girl that ODs upstairs, and like Flea and that are carrying it. I mean, there's just so much happening. And then I do this crazy dance, and then Diego and I have this really cool thing. And then it was just so much, and it was so fun. And Lena shot Babylon, who you just worked with on Saltburn.
Yes.
He's a cinematographer, and I loved working with him so much on Babylon that when we were prepping Saltburn, I was like, Emerald, you have to meet Linus. He is
amazing.
A genius, and
He's so lovely.
So artistic, but also so fast. I mean,
those shots in the part, I mean, all of it just looks incredible.
Yeah.
But those shots in the part, I mean, are they, you can't have,
they're
continuous,
one-ers,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so
a lot
crazy.
of one-ers. Outside the party, Diego and I do a walk and talk. That was like a 4-minute one-er that I think got edited down. Wow. But we did that. I remember I was like, oh, this must be my record of number of takes. We did a 4-minute one-er 36 times.
Because
Damien's, a perfectionist. He's so brilliant because he doesn't settle for anything less than spectacular.
Yeah.
And that is like all I could ever wish for in a director.
Yeah.
Some things had to be extremely precise. Even some lines here and there, he was like, no, I need the inflection. He's got a real musical ear. I need the inflection going up. Do it again, do it again, do it again. And then other things, he was just like,
great.
Go crazy.
Wow.
Like do anything. It was meant to be three lines in a scene.
Wow.
And you do hours of just crazy improv and like come up with all this stuff, and he'd just like let you run wild. And the more wild it got, the more he loved it. So the more he'd shoot it. Wow. And it was just like that really great combination where you're like, wow, I've got a director who's operating on both ends of the spectrum of like incredibly precise and technical, and then also complete freestyling, free for all. He's like he's like a genius jazz musician in his skills. And
because there's so many sequences where you're required to, I mean, it's so incredible, that scene in the bar where you get your first ever gig.
Oh yeah.
And
the crying on cue.
Oh my God, the crying on cue. And she's.
It was so
and that's Olivia, that's Damien's wife.
Damien's wife, who also produced the film.
That's amazing.
One of the producers on the film.
So she's giving you these she thinks you're like pointless and just a sort of bit of fluff, and then she sees how talented you are and starts like really specifically directing you, and you have to repeat it over and over and over again, and at one point get a single tear.
Yeah.
How much of that was real?
We pretty much were doing that scene exactly the same. Yeah, and in my head I was like, I know I can, I worked on a soap for 3 years. I know I can cry on cue. But to get one tear to fall at the right time, on the right, just as the lighting and camera movement line up, and have it fall out of the right eye, like I used to be able to do that when I was on Neighbours, but I haven't had to be that specific since.
That's insane.
And I was kind of like, wow, I hope I still got it. Like, I hope I can still like pick which eye a tear is going to fall out of on the right moment. And I was like, thank God I was able to do it. But I think Damien was also accommodating for me not being able to do, in his head he was like ready to do some whip pans and like blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then it was so played out like the scene because I was doing it, and he was like, okay, great. And he's like, okay, I can't believe I'm going to ask you to do this again because that was perfect. But actually, can we now on this one? And I was like, Damien, we're doing the scene. And he's like, my God, we are doing the scene.
I mean, it is like
art imitating life.
It's amazing to watch because you do. And the first time you burst into tears, it's like fully heart. I mean, there's nothing acting. It's like fully heartbreaking tears.
Sobbing tears. Yeah, he loves, the Falconetti shots in Passion of Joan of Arc, which is a beautiful masterpiece of, silent cinema. And so we kept calling it, we're like, we need to get our Falconetti, we need to get our, and then, Linus would get in there and it was just like, it was so magical.
And Linus is such a lovely presence behind the camera to have.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that makes such a big difference.
Cut. Hiya, I'm Nellie Leroy. So we going again? And then on the flip side in the movie, when that's happening for Nellie, she's having her first day on set, crying on cue and blah, blah, blah. What is being intercut in the movie is Manny, Diego's character's first day on a film set where Brad Pitt's character is the huge movie star and it's like this huge battle sequence. I wasn't obviously in that, but I was like, I have to go to set that day. Like, I can't miss this. There were 700 extras. Like, I may never see that again in a film, on a film set, because with CGI and stuff these days, like, no one does that. Yeah. But for Damien, like, everything has to be done practically. And huge explosions, and Diego's on a horse shooting a gun, and there's 700 extras, and everyone's battling, and there's an orchestra, and you got Spike, who is a director, being a director.
That took me so long to be like, who's this amazing European actor? And then literally after the film, I was like, who was that guy? What? And he looks, it's not like he's wearing a disguise, but he's doing this crazy German accent, and like, I mean, he's so funny. He actually also does a cameo in Wolf of Wall Street. He plays one of the guys. It's like my favorite scene in the movie. He's so funny, but he totally, dissolves into a character. He's a great actor. Yeah. But yeah, speaking of dissolving into a character, please can we talk about? Yeah, can we please talk about you and this film? She said, I loved it. It is so compelling, and you are like. I just kept thinking, because it's really stuck with me after watching. I was like, just reliving different moments of the movie, like again and again in my head. And I was just like, as I was watching, I was like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to watch Carey's movie. And I was like, and because I know you, I was like, I didn't think of you at all watching it. You're so real. Like, you're such a real actor, which seems like a simplistic way, derivative way to explain what you do, because it's exceptional. But I don't think of you as an actor when I'm watching you. I think of you as a real life human being, and you're so real, and you bring so much humanity. It's like you're not acting at all, except then you do these crazy like crying scenes and this and that, or like scream at the guy in the bar, and I'm like, oh, she was acting her pants off, but it just doesn't feel like acting. I was blown away. I loved it. I loved it.
How did you persuade women to tell you what had happened to them?
Yeah, so. It's difficult. They're terrified. A case I made was, I can't change what happened to you in the past, but together we may be able to use your experience to help protect other people. The truth, basically. It was funny because when I read it for the first time, we were still doing all of our press for Promising Young Woman, which you produced.
I was behind the camera as a producer. You were out glorious.
I still remember the day you came to set, and I was doing the scene with Christopher Mintz-Plasse.
McLovin.
I know, that's the thing, I was about to say McLovin. I was like, you're a better person. But only because he's so synonymous with that character, because he was so amazing in that. But anyway, you was shooting Birds of Prey at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you came to set, and I looked like a crazy person. I had this like insanely dark makeup around my eyes. I had like weird feathers in my hair, I think, and was, sort of mumbling my way through the scene very.
You were crushing the scene. And I was, that whole shoot, because I was also producing Birds of Prey, even if I didn't get any day, I had one day off, and I was like, I'm going straight to the Promising Young Woman set. I'm missing everything.
We were so excited also, because we'd both been working, simultaneously, and we hadn't got to have you on set at that point, but there was a real buzz. And then when you left, Emerald and I were like, oh, she's so amazing. Oh my God, did you see the jeans she was wearing? Those jeans were so amazing, but they'd never looked that good on her.
Shut up.
It's true. We were like, those jeans were God. She's goddess. Anyway, so we've obviously worked together before. So I was, I was doing all the press, and it was, it's like the press around that film was, of course, you're talking about really sensitive stuff. You're talking about stuff that really it's real. Like our story was a sort of fictional kind of fantasy based on stuff that we all know and experience, but it wasn't a specific person we were talking about. It wasn't like real. We weren't talking about someone's actual testimony.
Yeah, Promising Young Woman is an original idea.
Totally.
But the beauty of that movie is everyone goes, oh my God, that's so real.
Exactly.
That is so how it happens.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, it's kind of like a
This movie
similar
is-
territory, but approached in a totally different way.
Totally different, and the real people that the film is about, and then the subjects that Zoe Kazan and I play, and Megan and Jodie are just very real, very alive, very still working in the world, and incredibly talented, sort of formidable journalists. And the story that they wrote, and the women who came forward, it's very kind of sort of loaded material. So you just sort of always feel a bit. It's just an extra, responsibility.
Huge responsibility. I remember when we
get that
did
right.
Bombshell, I was
I was
playing,
going to ask you about that.
I was playing a fictional character, but who's kind of like an amalgamation of real life stories put into a fictional character. But, Nicole and Charlize, everyone's playing like real life people. Roger Ailes is, the villain in that story. But it's a different vibe on set when you're playing real life people who are still very much alive, and when the events that you're portraying are pretty recent in people's mind. Like it is, it's just a different thing. And I felt a huge sense of responsibility. So I can imagine you must have.
Yeah, it's just you sort of are aware that it's all a lot bigger than you and a lot bigger than a film, really. So I read it and I was so fascinated by Megan, just of who she is and how her brain works. And
She seems like a badass.
she's incredible.
What she's done is insane.
It's great. I mean, really, it's amazing. And the work that they did in sort of developing these relationships with the survivors who ultimately came forward, and whether they went on the record or not, it did seem like, gosh, there's this group of women who did this really heroic thing. And I do think that deserves a film. I think it deserves someone saying, like, look at this moment in history where this like relatively small group of women decided to be. I've been describing it to my kids because they're seeing like billboards and they're like, what's she said? Like, well, you can watch it when you're 40, but it's about these women who were being bullied by a man and were being bullied for a long time, and it was really unfair, and they decided that they were going to do something about it. So they all came together and they stood up to him, and then
that's a great
he
way
was held accountable.
explaining
And I just thought that is it. That's it. I think like more examples of that, please. Like more examples in the world of how women can come together and be really strong, or stand alone and be strong. I'm sure they didn't feel like a huge solidarity, or that it wasn't like they were sort of buffered by lawyers and huge kind of support. They did it really kind of on their own, but that they had the New York Times behind them, I think, was a huge part of it. But yeah, it just felt like the suffragettes, like, make a film about this. This is really amazing.
How close are any of these actresses to going on the record?
We're introducing the idea.
I'm afraid we have these horrific hotel room accounts and no corroborating evidence.
We feel they'll speak out if they're not the only ones. Safety in numbers.
And settlements?
3.
Did you get to spend time with Megan?
Yeah, we loads actually.
The real life journalist that you.
Yeah, so Megan, she was really kind of honest about her experience of postnatal depression and lots of kind of things that were going on in her home life, because the script is so close to the book, which is so close to the events that happened in real life. So the film is based on She Said, their book, and they wrote the book before they even knew the outcome of any of these sort of legal trials. They wrote it as a kind of.
Really?
Yeah, they started almost, straight after they published the articles, they wanted to be able to say, this is actually what happened. This is sort of indisputable, and this is a record, because they didn't know what would come of it. And there was so much more that they had learned that they couldn't publish in this article because they couldn't get it verified and on the record.
Do you know, that's something I found in the movie that I was like, oh, the bureaucracy of this is infuriating, and must be like beyond infuriating if you were Megan or who, it's any journalist in that position, to verify, like, have sources, have the facts, and not be able to share them because you have to verify it with this. And, it seemed like there were so many hoops to jump through in order to just tell the truth.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I think my assumption was like, you know something to be true.
Yeah.
You kind of all agree, and then you write it. And I think what's great
also,
about that.
so much bullshit is written that is so not true that I'm like, wait, how come the New York Times can't just tell everyone the truth?
Yeah.
But like some ridiculous, the Daily Mail can just make up insanity. Like it's just.
I think the standards to which they hold themselves is really great from like a contemporary audience to see at the moment with the climate the way it is, like
just to know that
really to be able to say what they say has to have that level of rigor behind it and to